microphone working? Yes, it is. It's 8:30 live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram. I think we're good to go on that. We are. Let's get rid of this banner. Let's put this music on pause. Good morning, everybody. September 26, 2024, episode 281 of Mornings with Scott, the best damn business show for medium and small businesses on the planet. Today's theme, where all systems go. Today's theme here is systems that aren't working, systems that suck, and there don't seem to be any leadership to change them. That'll be today's theme as we go through the stories for today. Does it amaze you like it does me? Does it amaze you the decisions that companies make that seem to still be after all of this in the name of social justice, the woke decisions? I hate that word. It's a well overused word, but I'm not quite sure what else to call them. The woke decisions, the DI decisions, DEI decisions, like after Gillette razors way back when told us that men were all toxic, their primary market. I use Harry's razors today, by the way. They're pretty good. You should check them out if you don't. Bud Light, which is their sales have never recovered. I'm not saying they were wrong. I'm just saying they went against their brand. And a brand is like a covenant. It's like a promise to your customer that this is what we stand for. This is what we're trying to provide for you. In their specific case, escapism. And then they went in their face with a marketing campaign, and well, they've never recovered. PayPal was one of the ones that really upset me. I don't know why I got triggered by this, but they introduced new terms of service way back when, and basically said, we're going to be looking at your social media posts, and if we find something we don't like, we're going to take your money. And then there was an uprising, and everybody canceled their PayPal accounts, and they said, no, that's not what we meant. That was just bad legalese. And so that was changed. Just checking up on Instagram here. What else was there? We've talked many times on this show about Boeing and their quality problems, right? The planes crashing into the ocean, doors falling off mid-flight, sudden plunges, and dudes ending up in the luggage compartment up above the seats. They still have spacemen right now, not just men, astronauts, including spacewomen, up at the International Space Station because they were abandoned there because the ship wasn't going to make it back safely. They were worried about. There was a big debate last night on the news I was listening to, getting ready to sign off for the day about DEI hiring practices and the pros and cons. And the person on the pro side quite trickily suggested when the topic of Boeing came up that it wasn't because of the color of the hirees. Are you suggesting that because we have more people of different races working for Boeing, that's why the quality has gone down? That's not the issue. That's not the issue at all. I don't think anybody is suggesting that. Certainly, I would never suggest that. I remind you that Sinclair Range is probably the most diverse company around. Certainly the most diverse company that I can think of. And not on purpose, just because that's the way it worked out. We hired on competence, we hired on merit, and this is the team that we have, and they are fantastic. Here's the thing: you manage what you can measure. Let's say, for an example, and so I've told you this on the show before. If you have competing priorities in management, in leadership, you have one priority, and let's say it's Boeing, and that's quality. Right? Safety, quality, these are your priorities, and you hire and you reward your managers for performance based on that one priority. Now, you introduce a second priority, which is diversification or inclusion or whatever, okay? And so you define what that means, and you make that very specific, and you say you have this priority as well. Well, when you have one priority that's immediately measurable, competing against another equal rank priority, which is not measurable until in the short term at all, right? Little short-term changes you make are not going to impact your safety record tomorrow or quality record tomorrow. They're going to change it over time. And so if you have one priority that's immediately measurable and one that isn't, well, it's the one that's measurable that is going to win every time. Let's say you are management and you have an opportunity or a requirement to promote either employee A or employee B. And employee A on the merit scale for quality is a 10 out of 10. and employee B is really good. They're an 8 out of 10 on the quality scale, but you have to promote one of the two of them. You're going to promote the 10 out of 10. But let's say B in your new priority of DEI is a favored status employee, and A is not. A is an unfavored status employee. I don't know the lingo they use. I'm just trying to come up with my lingo of my own. Well, you're going to promote B in this case. You're not going to promote A, because immediately on promotion, your DEI score changes for the benefit, right? It changes. It's more positive. So and this person has merit. They're an 8 out of 10. It's great. Okay. But they're not a 10 out of 10. And you had a 10 out of 10 option. But the 10 going from a 10 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 is not going to change your quality tomorrow. But if you do this repeatedly throughout an organization with tens of thousands of employees, you can see quite easily that over a short period of time, you're going to average down on the priority that is not measurable, which in this case is merit. And you're going to average up on the priority that is measurable, which in this case is diversity. That's the problem with the system. It's not the idea itself. Everybody's all over diversity and thinks that's a great idea. At least I am. Look at my own companies. But that's the problem with that sort of system. We manage what we measure. We manage what we measure. Speaking of weird decisions and competing priorities, Bloomberg reports a major international bank has launched a new payment monitoring system to track customers' purchases as part of a crackdown on the general public buying meat and dairy products. London-based NatWest Bank launched a carbon footprint tracker to tackle the alleged climate crisis. I don't know why Bloomberg's writing in alleged and all of these qualifiers into their article. The British multinational bank system monitors customer spending and scolds customers when they buy meat and dairy products. The tracker issues alerts that warn customers their food purchases are causing climate change. It's a smartphone banking app. And when you buy something that's sort of a little offside for the bank, you receive messages on it, and it urges you to swap out when you're trying to buy beef or milk. It says, hey, maybe you should try some non-dairy or plant-based products. The app pressures customers to take part in Veggie Mondays, and they warn that they should be choosing mostly plant-based diets to fight global warming by reducing their so-called greenhouse gas emissions. The app also suggests buying more secondhand clothes, taking fewer flights, and to comply with net zero targets of the World Economic Forum. It's almost hard to believe that this is true. It is a well-published Bloomberg article, however. I hope we're not being spoofed on this. It's so crazy. Additional warnings from the bank tell the customers to switch off tumble dryers, share car journeys, and wash their clothes in cold water. Really? Really? There's also an opt-in on the app for a monthly carbon store. Anyways, here's the point. How's that going to work? Are we all going to move our accounts to this Nat Bank from Britain? Probably not. This is a system that isn't working, including, speaking of a system that isn't working, Jamit Singh, leader of the NDP party, the Socialist Party of Canada, posted on X yesterday, who benefits from private healthcare? Who benefits from privatizing healthcare? And then it's got a big X, patients. So clearly patients aren't benefiting from private healthcare. Healthcare workers had a big X beside it. Checkmark. CEOs at the top. Conservatives want you to pay more for your healthcare so their rich friends can get richer. That's from Jamit. Yesterday, the Socialist Party leader in Canada, and similarly, Kamala Harris in the US yesterday doubled down on her call for universal healthcare, a system that clearly is not working anywhere in the world. I'm in Canada right now, and I don't remember as a kid or even as a young adult me really worrying about my healthcare too much. I could always find a doctor. I knew that the rich and powerful were going to the US if they had emergency procedures, but I didn't, as just a normal middle-class Canadian, I didn't really think to myself that there was a worry about the healthcare at all. And as you got older and as the system falls apart, because all systems degenerate, It's just become a disaster. The Canadian healthcare system is a disaster. If I just think about my immediate family, me in particular, I've moved out to a different province from the province that I was in, and I came here. I cannot get a doctor, period. And I'm getting to the age where I should have a doctor and I should be having regular tests and all that sort of stuff. And so I had to move. I had to move my principal residence to a different province so that I could get access to a private clinic healthcare system that gives me advanced testing on a regular basis. That wasn't available in my province. If you're in the US, think of that as being a state. You just couldn't get it. So I've changed my residence specifically to get healthcare because it's not available where I am. My wife and daughter in this particular province don't have a doctor at all. They're just not available. There's not a doctor. My father, I told you the story when I first started this live streaming a few months ago, was injured in an industrial accident in Detroit, Michigan. He's a Canadian. He's always paid his Canadian taxes. He has a Canadian residence. He doesn't have health care in the US. He's strictly Canadian. No beds available for him in Ontario, which, by the way, Windsor, Ontario is right across the river from Detroit, Michigan. Nope, they would not take him. They would not transfer him. There was just, I don't have to go through all the details again, but there was all sorts of bureaucratic, systemic roadblocks to being able to even talk to somebody in administration to get him transferred to somewhere where he could get some proper care. And he died last weekend. He died in Detroit last weekend. We failed as a family to get him into Canada at all because the healthcare system foiled us. Just foiled us. Now, I do want to say he didn't die because of that. I think he was just going to die anyways because of the accident. But the U.S. healthcare system was fantastic in Detroit. The hospital, in particular, that he was put into, which, by the way, was the Farmington Hills Beaumont Hospital, Corwell Hospital, whatever, in Detroit. Fantastic. As a Canadian, I walk in, I'm just blown away by the service and the level of care. And if you're from that hospital, you're like, oh, things have really gone downhill in the last 4, 5, 8 years. But if you're from another jurisdiction with a single payer system, you walk in and go, wow, this is like magic, all the stuff that they have here. My brother right now is in hospital in Ontario getting a serious procedure done, and he was basically kidnapped by the hospital. He can't go home because it's serious and he needs to be monitored, yet he's been laying there for 12 days waiting for this 10-minute or 20-minute procedure to be done, which is life-threatening. They don't have the bed space. They don't have the doctors. They don't have anything. That is your single payer system. That's it in action. It's the same all over the world. It's a system that is not working. And yet that's the holy grail for U.S. Democrats and Kamala Harris. It's a bad system. It puts feel-good goals over actual performance and merit. Theme of the day, Bloomberg reports Mexican president seizes port owned by U.S. mining company in final week of his term. Mexico finalized plans to take control of a port and quarry owned by Vulcan Materials Co. That's a public company, by the way, in the U.S. on its Caribbean coast, deepening tensions days before the president leaves office. President Obrador's administration declared the land south of the resort cities of Cancun and Playa del Carmen a natural protected area, according to a filing in the Federal Gazette published hours after U.S. lawmakers sought to dissuade such a move. So the U.S. didn't want this to happen under their trade agreements. Yet the Mexican government went and did it anyways. And this falls under the category of using environmental and other regulations to circumvent, just to use those to circumvent trade and other systems, right? So you agree to something as a country, you say, well, I'm going to support this, and we'll talk about that in a minute with U.S. fracking and U.S. coal mining. Yeah, you can go do that. You can open up your coal mine, as Obama said, but you'll go bankrupt doing it under my administration. So good luck. Have some fun with that. The move prevents Alabama-based construction company from extracting limestone at the site that it has been developing for decades. Company says that the expropriation of the land and port is yet another escalation and is a new violation of Mexico's commitments under the North American trade agreements. It's going to have a chilling and long-term effect on U.S.-Mexico trade and investment relations. Vulcan has been in litigation over this issue since 2018 under the North American Free Trade Act, known as NAFTA, so on and so forth. The government of Mexico has previously alleged environmental damage and sent in the Marines, the Mexican Marines, to occupy the land. Vulcan's chief executive officer defended its environmental record, citing international awards in its reforestation efforts. Who the hell knows what's true? Maybe there is environmental damage there, but it is quite clearly a system of governments all over the world now, particularly liberal, left-leaning governments, to use regulations, climate change, environmentalism, all of which we all agree are really, really important, but they use that system as a way to circumvent other systems. So they're just manipulating the game and going after their goals, which apparently in this case is to nationalize everything. In December, Mexico took control of operations at a hydrogen processing plant owned by French industrial gas manufacturer Air Liquide. Last year, they announced plans to buy $6 billion worth of energy assets from a Spanish company that faced political hostility from Mexico that affected its permits and supplies. So again, this is all just a system geared to political goals and not trade, and not doing what's better for the people, one would think. U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, has warned that the companies may lose confidence in Mexico as an investment destination. As a result, Congress is pushing through judicial reform in the U.S., but that's not going to do anything. Two things here. So as I said, this is a government intervention playbook. This is a system that's not working for business, for population, for democracy. The mining companies all over the world, though, have had to deal with this particular issue for years or forever. So mining companies all over the world, you don't mine in downtown Manhattan or in Washington, D.C. You go to some remote location where your foreign investment, you are the foreign investment. You're dealing with governments that you don't really know the lay of the land. It's very difficult. It's very risky. And you're going to get caught up in this sort of stuff. You negotiate a deal, you pay all the fees, and then you're regulated to death. And like I said, it's like Obama said. Obama brought this to America when he quite openly said in Pennsylvania and West Virginia during the campaign that no, you will be fully free to open up a coal plant under his administration, but you will go bankrupt, because it was just a straight up admission that he intended to regulate you to death. Same with the Harris administration, Biden-Harris administration, with fracking in Pennsylvania. She's campaigning right now that, hey, fracking, I'm not going to ban fracking. No one's going to ban fracking, but she doesn't say the next part, which is you would be regulated to death and there will be no fracking industry. There will be no jobs. There will be no cheap cheap energy. And we know that as a fact because she stated those as objectives. She said that in the past. She previously said she would ban fracking entirely. Now she's saying she's not going to ban fracking because someone has explained to her, you don't need to ban fracking. You can permit it all you want. You just need to regulate it to death and the whole industry will go away. That's what's happening. Same with the carbon tax regime in Canada. We talked about that before on this show. The other thing is that the lack of U.S. You know what? I'm going to skip this part. I was going to get super political and into Iranian hit teams traveling the U.S. Go check out that story if you want. It's so disturbing. The incompetence or the intentional design of the system surrounding the lack of American influence. But that's too political for this particular show. Instead, let me tell you about my course. That's up. You can see the link in the notes, and it talks, the very first module talks about systems over goals, that we are the sum at an individual level. We are the sum of our habits. We are the sum of our routines. And at a corporate level, we are the sum of our systems. and systems degenerate over time. So if you're being successful, you need to continuously improve your systems to avoid the fate of the systems degenerating and your business going downhill. If your business is not successful, well, it's because your systems aren't working. So either way, you need to change. You need to improve your systems all the time. And that's what Module 1 is about. And that's why these stories had some interest to me today. And although I'm trying to avoid the political part of my notes that were put here for me, it's hard. It's hard to find business stories when you're so close to an election in the US. So that's what Module 1 of the course is about. It's available now. You can go. And with that comes some free coaching sessions. I'll talk about the coaching sessions that I've had on tomorrow's episode. Tomorrow's Friday, right? Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. We're going to talk about business valuation, and we're going to talk about personal goodwill versus goodwill that is transferable, and how you should build your business to make it saleable. Did you know that only 2% of new businesses will generate intergenerational wealth, will create, that's the right word, intergenerational wealth? In other words, your new business today, you could sell it sometime in the future and get a bunch of money and pay off your mortgage and have enough to retire and to pass them on to your kids. Only 2% of new businesses. It's astonishing, but we can change those odds if we talk about personal goodwill, transferable goodwill, and how to structure a business for sale. So we'll be doing that. I'm also going to be posting, hopefully I get it up today. I did a third recorded coaching session with an individual. So that will be on the Winning Momentum podcast channels, everywhere that you listen to the Winning Momentum podcast. That'll be the full stream from that. And there we talk about financing structures, how to approach a market, and other important topics that I don't recall because that was a few days ago. I was traveling, dealing with my family matters. What else? I think that's the end of my prepared remarks today. Thank you for joining. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday, 8:30 Mountain. Talk to you then.